Hi, thank you. So we have with us Samantha and David. We've been working very closely, I think, for almost 10, 11 months with Sam and David and their team now. Lot of learnings with each other, and finally we are at a point now where we can share that learnings with a larger audience, and both of them, they have gracefully accepted our invitation to join the podcast. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much, David, for joining with us today. You both of you have been very instrumental in bringing or in realizing the concept of adopting AI in Medica's workflow for better clinical outcomes. Can we know more about you?
Yeah, sure. Well, hi, and thanks for inviting us onto the podcast today. It's quite exciting to be here. So, yeah, I'm David Evans. I've been with Medica since 2008. So I've been with the company whilst it's been grown into the large company that it is today. I've had various project and deployment type roles within Medica, and currently I'm working as a functional architect. Most of my time is spent nowadays working on the Future Tech program, which is a series of projects that we have in place that is going to fundamentally underpin Medica's strategy for future growth. And the deployment of the AI with you guys from Qure has been part of that program. Prior to working with Medica, I was a medical physicist in a diagnostic radiology department. And then in between that and Medica, I was a project manager for a large PACS project in the UK. So I've always been kind of in the diagnostic radiology kind of arena. So that's me.
Thanks, David, and thank you, Reshma, for inviting us on today. It's great. My name's Sam Davey. At the moment, I am head of program delivery at Medica, and I've worked for Medica for just under 2 years. My background is project and program management. I'm one of 1,000 chartered project professionals globally, and I've also got a background in business transformation, process transformation, and organizational redesign. So working on something as sort of interesting and innovative as the adoption of augmented intelligence into our workflows has been hugely interesting to me, and it's been a real privilege to be part of this project.
Great. Thank you very much. As Medica is one of the largest teleradiology companies in the world, and not to say in the UK. Can you tell a bit about Medica? I'm sure everybody knows, but it will be good for some of the new folks who are joining the podcast, who would be listening to this. A bit more about Medica. What has been Medica's offering, and what really makes Medica unique?
Okay, well, as I said, I started in 2008, and at that point, it was still quite a small organisation based out of a small town called Battle in the south of England. We've grown incredibly since then. Back, I think, in 2014, we moved our HQ across to Hastings, which is a much larger town in the same part of the world. We became a listed business on the London Stock Exchange back in 2017, I think it was, which kind of shows the kind of growth that we've been seeing. We've always provided an elective service where our clients can send the images for us to report with SLAs that might range from between 24, 48 hours, that kind of range, and also an emergency reporting service which we call NightHawk. We call it NightHawk, but it's 24/7. And for the NightHawk service, we'll be returning the reports back to our clients in more like 23 minutes of receipt of the last image onto our systems. Within NightHawk, we have some prioritized services, if you like, for stroke pathways and for major trauma. On the elective side, we also provide some more specialist services, such as reporting of cardiac CT, PET CT, and CT colonography, DEXA reporting, those kind of things. We've now grown to having around 500 plus reporters. I don't know what the exact number is. I wouldn't be surprised if it's beyond 600 at this point, with the reporters being based in the UK and further afield. We've internationalized our reporting base, so we have reporters over in Australia, New Zealand, and in places around Europe. And we have, I think, 100 plus clients at the moment, split between the NHS and the independent sector. As well as growing, organically within our, core teleradiology area, we've also recently had a number of purchases and a joint venture, which again is showing how Medica has been growing. One of the purchases was an Irish company now called Medica Ireland, and also a clinical trials company in the US called RadMD. We see ourselves as like a strategic partner with our clients. We're not trying to compete with our clients, radiologists, in any way. We're there to supplement their own internal resource, their own internal skills. And I like to think that our clients see us in the same kind of way. There's certainly that partnership approach that we're trying to put forward at every opportunity, really. One of the unique aspects, I think, of Medica is the fact that we are very much clinically led. Obviously, the teleradiology is heavily dependent on technology, and that's always going to be the case. But we do see ourselves as being a clinically led organization that's underpinned by technology, rather than a group of people who have said, this technology is quite good, let's see what we can do with it. We make sure that our reporters have access to all of the clinical information that they'll need to provide the radiology report at the time of reporting. So it's almost as if they are sat within a desk in the client's own organization. They can see all the previous history in terms of the reports and the imaging as well. And I think that's really quite unique within the teleradiology domain, the fact that we have that kind of model.
Well, that's great. That's great to hear that, David. Thank you so much. I mean, I personally didn't know that you were there with Medica for such a long time. It's very nice. I have been also with the organization since most of this since inception, seen the journey. Of course, it has both companies that I've worked with has not been as large as Medica. Of course, Qure is probably in that journey, but yeah, it's so nice to hear that, David. Thank you so much. Okay. Sam, do you have anything to add, or should I move to the next question?
No, that's fine. I think move on to the next question.
Okay. Great. So, David, what I understand from you, Medica it's a large organization. You were saying about 500 to 600 reporters, which are specialists who are reporting the scans, the incoming scans that are coming in. Apart from that, you have other supporting staff who are working with the NightHawk portal. At what point and why did you consider adopting QER in the workflow?
We'd been considering the potential and possibilities around using AI for some time. It was a small working group made up of David and a couple of our executives, considering how and with which partner and with which particular algorithm we would like to begin this project, and that working group had been around for a good year and a half before we actually made a decision. And in fact, one of the projects that was discussed with me when I was in the process of joining Medica was the potential of working with an organization to bring AI into the workflow. And again, that was one of the reasons why I joined Medica, because I was very, very excited about that as a possibility. I think it's fair to say that the drive to do this sort of ramped up throughout 2019. We had a new chief executive who joined the organisation, and again, his view was very, very aspirational, a strong desire to put Medica right at the forefront in terms of how we were using new technology to bring benefits to patients globally. And following on from Stuart joining us, we then began to have detailed conversations with a number of organisations, and one, I'm glad to say, was Qure. And we began our partnership with Qure sort of formally last March. and began to work on the adoption of the Qure algorithm in earnest late spring last year. We decided to use a proof of concept approach. We wanted to really think through how we were going to bring the algorithm into our workflows. We wanted to look at its impact on our current workflows, and we also wanted from the very beginning to engage with our reporters to find out, what our reporters' views were, how they would use the outputs, and also how this could really add benefits both to our reporters in terms of prioritising the work, but also potentially moving forward in terms, obviously, of benefits to our patients. We chose to work with Qure because, obviously, within the acute workflow, intracranial hemorrhage is one of the key things that we need to be aware of when it comes to prioritization of those studies. And as David said, our turnaround around acute is incredibly fast. From the point of receipt of image to the report being returned, it's considerably less than 25 minutes. It's 22 to 23 minutes on average. And so a tool that can speed up that prioritization was very important to us.
That's great to hear. And we are very happy to be part of that vision that the team has, and some of the results that we have been seeing as well. That's great to hear. Thank you for that. So now, if you look at it, there are many telehealth, telemedicine. Telemedicine is playing a huge role, especially with this pandemic. But if I come to teleradiology, teleradiology is playing a very critical role in overcoming some of the healthcare challenges that we have. And if you look at the market, you have large teleradiology companies, small players, multiple offerings that these teleradiology companies have to their clients or these hospitals, etc. And the idea is that getting timely treatment, access to diagnostics to the patients, right? That is at the end what is the vision that every teleradiology solution would try to solve or try to achieve. What are some of the key pointers that any customer, client, hospital would need to consider, need to keep in mind before choosing the right teleradiology partner, someone like Medica?
Shall I pick up on that one first, David? And then I'm sure that you'll have things to add. I think actually a lot of this David's touched on in sort of earlier on in the conversation. We believe, from Medica's perspective, that a teleradiology partner must be clinically led. One of the key things I think that I would absolutely say everyone should be looking for if they're making this choice is absolutely unimpeachable clinical governance. That it's driven by really strong and really robust clinical governance, and that the company sees itself, as Medica does, as a clinical company underpinned by technology, not a technology company that happens to be dabbling in the healthcare space. So I think that's really, really important. You couldn't have teleradiology without the technology. That's a given. But what we're here to do is to provide absolutely solid reporting to ensure that the patients get the right care at the right time in the right way. And that's really, I think, what somebody needs to be looking for. And that needs to be, I think, the primary factor in terms of choosing the right teleradiology partner. But David's got a lot more experience in this space than I have, and I'm sure you've got things that you'd like to add.
Yeah, I think we're quite lucky in the UK with regard to geographical healthcare disparity, especially within acute care. The main issue is how far do you have to travel in the UK, especially for, like, say, the acute care. It's not going to be that far compared to some other countries around the world. But yeah, it's definitely the case that choosing the right teleradiology company is vital. Choosing someone that suits what you want to do as a healthcare provider, and it's going to complement your internal resources is definitely very important. And there's a number of factors that you should consider. Clinical quality. Sam's just said how important it is that you consider them from the clinical perspective rather than thinking of it as a technology-based tool. How does a teleradiology company select the reporters that they are going to be using to deliver your work? How do they measure the quality, and how do they maintain and ideally improve the quality over time? For lots of clients, an important consideration is the breadth of services that are available from the teleradiology provider. Are they just providing elective reporting? Are they looking for a company that's got services that cover elective and the NightHawk, the acute reporting? Are they using subspecialist reporters as we do? And what number of reporters do they have in each of these areas to say cover the subspecialties? Because you need to ensure that you're going to get some consistent delivery against your needs, and you can only do that if you know that the teleradiology company does have the breadth of services and the breadth of reporters. And reputation is vitally important in teleradiology, as in everything else. Radiology in the UK and around the world, it's actually quite a small community. The radiologists and the radiology services managers, they talk to each other day in, day out. So I think it's really important that you maintain that high reputation, because you know that your potential clients are going to be asking the friends, what do you think of Medica? You've had some first-hand experience of the company. How was it for you? And yeah, I think price is also important. It is going to be, especially for the NHS, but it's also, you need to think of the value that you're having, delivered by your teleradiology company. Are they easy to engage with day to day? Is it easy for you to transfer your work across to that teleradiology company? Have they got a good model that means that they can provide the reports back to your clinicians quickly and efficiently? What's the attitude of the staff that they have working in that company that you're going to be engaging with? And what do they do if something goes wrong? Do they hold their hands up and work with you to rectify it, or do they shrug the shoulders and look the other way? This kind of a these values for the company is vitally important for any organization that's looking to engage with teleradiology.
That's very, very insightful. I think, one common factor that we have seen across all our clients is also clinically governed, right? Instead of administrative or technology is to support that. But finally it is clinical, and deeply everybody, all the organizations we work with, deeply they care about the end patient outcome. I think a lot of synergies there. That's very, very nice to hear on that. Can you tell us a little bit about NightHawk? I think you mentioned about NightHawk portal. I really like the name NightHawk, and I didn't know that the reason for that name is because you're available, round the clock during night hours. Can you tell a bit more about that solution and the challenges that you have faced while operationalizing NightHawk portal? And maybe you can briefly touch upon with Qure as well.
Okay, I think I'll start with this one. Obviously, Sam
Please do, David.
To add. Okay, so NightHawk is a service that we provide to our clients to provide emergency reporting out of hours with very fast turnaround times, as we said a few times now, because we're quite proud of this. We have turnaround times of around 23 minutes on average, and that can be in the middle of the night. We're currently providing emergency reporting, that kind of emergency reporting, for up to around 50 hospitals per night. And at peak times, we have around, I think, 25 radiologists who they're not just available to report on the actual CT scans that come through. They're also there to discuss the cases with the doctors that are making use of the NightHawk service. They can discuss the patient's clinical history and advise on whether an out of hours emergency CT scan is appropriate, the most appropriate use of imaging, And if in fact there's a reasonable percentage, you don't know the number, but there's a reasonable percentage of cases where our radiologists will advise that the emergency imaging isn't required, that emergency CT scan isn't required. If the emergency CT scan is required and the scan is acquired, then that will come through to us via our teleradiology platform, I guess you describe it, that we've implemented and been fine-tuning over the years. And our radiologists will then provide a written report back into the client's information system. Usually that'll be a radiology information system. Obviously, as soon as they provide that report and they authorize that report, it's available for the referrers to access straight away. That speed of delivery of that report is vitally important when you think that these referrers could be managing patients who query stroke, major trauma, as I said earlier as well. So that speed of report is vitally important. And also, if one of our radiologists who's providing the service finds that there's something that's urgent or unexpected and they need to notify the referrers of that for some urgent treatment, then they'll call the referrers, the doctors back at the client end to make them aware of the case and to talk through the urgent factors and the urgent clinical need. Our activity levels for NightHawk vary, but currently it's typically in the range of between around 600 and 1,000 patients per day, and with the vast majority of those being during the NightHawk hours rather than during daytime hours. And the main challenges when you've got those kind of numbers really around the volumes, but also around standardizing the care pathways that you deliver. Many of our clients will have a slightly different preference for how they want to engage with a teleradiology company within this kind of NightHawk processes. But we're always trying to ensure that we're standardizing on national best practice guidance where we can. There's always going to be examples where you do have to work within the client's own requirements, because at the end of the day, it's their pathway that we're supplementing. But as I say, we do try to standardize where possible. And in terms of volumes, it's two things. It's the variation in the number of scans and the type of scans that can be a challenge. In terms of the type of scans, for NightHawk, we'll be receiving everything from CT head, CT brains, through to full body CT or head, neck, chest, abdomen, and pelvis, major trauma scans, etc., etc. And some of these scans have got very large volumes of data associated with them. Obviously, the more data per scan, when you're working over these wide area networks, then the longer it can take to transmit the image data, the longer it takes to transmit the image data, the longer it'll take us to receive it and provide that report back to the clients. So we do work very closely with the clients to try to ensure that they are only sending the data that we need and not wasting bandwidth, if you like, transferring and transmitting data that we don't need, that's not going to contribute to the radiologist report. Don't know if you want to add anything, Sam?
No, no, I think we might actually. I don't think I can answer this, but I think that possibly you could add something, David, on how we've actually integrated Qure into the NightHawk portal, because that's been a sort of specific piece of work that our software development team have done, and obviously that was fundamental to actually enabling us to get Qure up and running.
Well, yeah, we're really, I feel we're really lucky to have an in-house software development team that we can work with when we need to put in place, or we want to put in place, these kind of new and innovative technologies. The software development team that we do have, they built what we call the NightHawk portal, and the NightHawk portal drives our NightHawk workflow. So it's a bespoke development that is based on our design, our status flow, and everyone within the NightHawk process from our clients who are notifying us of the need to use our service, through to our NightHawk department who are managing the service and prioritizing studies and making them available to our radiologists, through to the radiologists themselves who are providing that, that radiologist output. They all access this NightHawk portal. So what we've done with Qure is we've integrated the outputs from the Qure into that portal, so that if it does flag an ICH in the middle of the night, firstly, it's available to that administrative team, so they know that they need to prioritize that study and make it available to one of our reporters just as quickly as they can. And secondly, it's visible also to the reporters within the NightHawk portal. The reporters can see, has that CT head scan been through the Qure algorithm, the Qure algorithm, and if it has, has the Qure algorithm identified a potential ICH? And also, we work with you guys at Qure to implement an additional algorithm that will identify whether it suspects that there's an artifact in the study. And again, we've integrated the output of that into the NightHawk portal, so that can show the user of the portal that the AI has identified that there's a potential ICH, but also whether or not it believes that there's an artifact within that scan. The actual integration piece is being, I guess it's akin to how you might integrate the Qure algorithm with an NHS organization or a hospital organization, where you would send a HL7 message through, and that'll be processed and included within the RIS output, I would guess is what you would do. Thankfully, it's really good that you've got the flexibility to not just have that single model, that HL7 model. You're also able to provide JSON messages, JSON outputs, and that's what we use, and that's what we've integrated within our NightHawk portal. Obviously, we've also had to integrate the AI, the Qure, within our PACS workflow as well, both to get the images from the PACS to the Qure software as quickly as we can, and also to make sure that the results and the responses from Qure get back to us and are put right in front of the people that need to see them just as quickly as they can do. And obviously, it's we've said a few times again, 23 minutes on average turnaround time. That's really very quick, and making sure we can maximize the number of times that the Qure output gets in front of our NightHawk department and our radiologists, so it can actually be used to prioritize even quicker allocation for those particular cases, is vital. And I think that's where we're still fine-tuning the system that we set up with you guys, and fine-tuning that integration just so we can speed up that process wherever we can.